According to some sources, the console edition of Rust is a top 10 game on at least one platform, and honestly, that blew my mind. I did not expect that the game we love to hate called Rust was going to be a top 10 game, but looking at the stats, there it was. So I decided to do some digging and figure out if this was true and what it could mean for the console edition of Rust, because from these facts and from these figures, we can determine how many players are last gen and how many players are current gen. Let's just jump into it and start talking about the console edition of Rust. So first off, the easiest one to get out of the way is the Xbox. Xbox publicly publishes all the figures on what games are most played, and the console edition Rust does not make it in any of those figures. There's games like Roblox, Minecraft, and even Rainbow Six, a game about a bunch of homosexuals who are just trying to get by in this crazy world, but Rust did not make the list. So we can just move on to the PlayStation, because with the PlayStation, it gets a bit interesting, and if you know me, I like to get to the interesting stuff ASAP. So PlayStation does not publicly report the most played games or anything like that, but there is something called PSTimeTracker.com. And what this does is it takes 21,000 active players and tracks the most popular games that they play. Now, these are probably more hardcore players because those are the ones who are most likely to actually go through all the rigmarole of actually adding this itchy insects fellow to their friends list and then letting this so-called friend monitor all their activity like an abusive ex-girlfriend or boyfriend. But that's what happens. So 21,000 you are out there giving in the facts and the figures. And based on that, Rust Console Edition is a top 5 game on the platform with 56,516 hours played for only 1,534 players. Now, to put that in perspective, the game above it is FIFA 22, and that has 62,612 hours played, but there's 4 times as many players, or maybe 3 times as many players, with 4,162 players. And the game below that, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, has 53,909 hours played with 3,250 players. So with half the player base, Rust did 3,000 more hours. That shows you just how crazy all you Rust players are out there. But what we're going to do is we are going to order this list by players. And if you look at that, the console edition of Rust does fall down in the rankings. So I'm just going to count it out for you. It goes from Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto, Apex Legends, Minecraft, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, FIFA 22, Fall Guys, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, I think that's because of Warzone, Rocket League, Rainbow Six Siege, Need for Speed Heat, Multiverses, I have no idea what that is, Dead by Daylight, FIFA 23, and then it's the console edition of Rust, ranking in at number 15 when it comes to the amount of players playing the game, but that is quite impressive. It beats out games like Black Ops Cold War, a game that hasn't been relevant for 2 years, and Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that delivers a stunningly beautiful single-player experience for people who are stuck in the last decade. Then you got, Red Dead Redemption I've never even played, so I have no idea if it's good or not, but people rave about it. You've got Destiny 2, Ghost of Tsushima, and a bunch of other games that really made this list because PlayStation doesn't have any good games. On the Xbox, on the other hand, you've got a lot of games that make it because they're on Game Pass. Go figure. So yeah, the console edition Rust does respectively rank as one of the top 15 games if you do it by player count, and if you do it by hours, it's actually a top 5 game. Well, generally people consider hours to be like second to players because how many players are playing a game is seen as one of the paramount statistics that everybody wants to look at. I think hours can actually represent something too. If you've got fewer players playing for more hours, you probably have a player base that's more sticky to that game, more likely to buy skins or invest in skins, as the powers that be would tell you. And yeah, generally, like, that's actually a really good figure for Rust. So yeah, Rust is by and far an extremely successful game on the PlayStation based on this metric, and honestly on Xbox is probably not too far under top 25, top 50 games. I looked into it. A lot of the games that are showing up as the most popular on Xbox are completely free games that come with the Game Pass. It makes sense that those are going to be the most played games because a lot of casual players, like myself on sometimes, will just go ahead and download those games, maybe jump in for 5 minutes. But if the game was recommended, if it's new to the Xbox Game Pass, people are going to download it, they're going to play it, and that game's going to make a top 5 game just because everybody spent 10 minutes dicking around in it. When you look at Rust again, another stat that shows you just how popular it is, they actually show average session times. So most games are ranking about a 1 hour session, with something like Dead by Daylight ranking 1 hour and 49 minutes. And FIFA 23, which I think recently came out, ranking in at 1 hour and 57 minutes. Rust Console Edition, on the other hand, came in at 2 hours and 12 minutes. There's only one other game. There's two other games on this list that rank that high. So you've got Ark Survival Evolved that ranks in at 2 hours and 30 minutes. And then after that, you've got NBA 2K23 that ranks in at 2 hours and 20 minutes. After that, you've got a few games touching 2 hours like DayZ, Cyberpunk, and PSO2 New Genesis. But there really aren't any other games that are ranking in those hours that Rust is. And of the games that are, you've got, the FIFA games and the NBA 2K games, which are completely new, and people are probably really getting into those because they're completely new games. And then you've got Ark Survival Evolved, which is in the same realm as the Rust Console Edition. More interesting, too, is that Rust Console Edition actually beat out Ark, which means it's probably more popular than Ark, which, given the success of Rust on PC, just sort of makes sense. Now, here's the interesting thing. You can actually split this data by platform. So you can do PS4 or PS5. Seeing that, I've got to go check out the PS4 stats and the PS5 stats, because I want to see just how many people are playing on which console. So when you go to the PS4, you're going to see that there's 1,257 players using the PS4 that have an average session time of 2 hours and 17 minutes. If you go over to the PS5, what you're going to find is that there's only 329 players playing the console edition of Rust, and they have an average session time of 1 hour and 57 minutes. So what this means is there's probably about 3 to 4 times as many PS4 players as there are PS5 players. So for everybody that's hoping that last gen is going to be dropped, I think this just goes to show that that is never going to happen, at least not anytime soon, because frankly, there's a lot of people playing on last gen.